Hello, I am Mantastic and Fantastic, and today I'm going to be talking about the Super Player's Choice Godfest that has just gone live for the voting period, which will have a special separate rare machine in the future. So Player's Choice Godfest are an exciting time because, as the name implies, players get to choose the lineup or roster that is featured. And for this event that will be upcoming, we will have the top 15 most voted 7-star Godfest exclusives plus Samurai 3 mashed together, the top 15 6-star Godfest exclusives, and the top 40 Pantheons. And all players will receive 1 vote per respective category, so you can vote in each one. As a whole, this should give us a much stronger Godfest lineup or roster compared to previous events, because technically these should be the stronger and or more powerful cards voted in here. But at the same time, it can be difficult to decide who you should be voting for. And before I give any sort of advice or my own opinions, I want to preface by saying that what you should vote for should be benefiting your Monster Box. Everyone's Monster Box goals, needs, and just motivations for playing the game will differ from player to player, and what necessarily is beneficial for myself may not necessarily be beneficial for you. And at the same time, if you do not own a particular card, that card tends to have significantly more value because it will be providing or filling a hole in your Monster Box that would have been otherwise inaccessible. So with that in mind, take any advice I give with a grain of salt and try and apply the logic that I am stating to your individual needs in Monster Box to hopefully give yourself a bit better idea of what you should be voting for. So, how to vote? We just vote by following the Others menu, and then there will be popping up on the screen a Super Player's Choice Godfest button. Click that and you vote once per category. It's relatively straightforward. And as I mentioned beforehand, the lineup breakdown will be 15 7-star Godfest exclusives and Samurai 3 Pantheon, which is something I'm going to touch upon in a moment, 15 6-star Godfest exclusives, and 40 Pantheon cards. So for the 7-star Godfest exclusives, 7-star Godfest exclusives tend to be the strongest types of cards on average. This is because they have the highest rarity. They are quite new by comparison, and generally speaking, newer cards are just stronger overall to make them enticing enough to roll. And as a general blanket statement, you want to get 7-star Godfest exclusives because they tend to be more powerful, and they also can function as strong trade fodder for desirable events. And we are able to vote in 15 7-star Godfest exclusives in total, but the problem is this pool will be diluted by the Samurai 3 Pantheon. Now, I want to say right now that the Samurai 3 Pantheon is not a lackluster group. It's probably the best Pantheon by far because they have stellar weapon assists. But the problem is they're going to be eating into this 15 card pool, so to speak. And let's say all 5 Samurai 3s somehow get voted in. Worst case scenario, we would only have 10 7-star Godfest exclusives possibly to roll from, which makes it obviously harder to do so, and that is going to be the largest drawback. So I strongly recommend that you don't vote for Samurai 3. It's not because they are weak, but it's because you want to get 7-star Godfest exclusives more often. So, with that being said, many of the 7-star Godfest exclusives are available through the 4 Choices Appreciation Medal Gift Dungeon, and if you haven't cleared that yet, click my subsequent article there in order to give yourself a better idea of what you could be pursuing. But at the same time, it means you could acquire a card you don't have, which in turn means you can save that vote. So, the order I'm going to be showcasing all the cards for each respective category is essentially random. It's not necessarily the first one I mentioned is the best one to vote. I'm just going to be going through like red, blue, green, light, dark for basically the pad ordering, or whatever just pops up in my copy-paste icon template document. Either way, Grantis is the first card I want to touch upon, and Grantis is a 30-turn transforming card, but his base form has respectable awakenings. Like, these are not bad awakenings. Like, you have double 7 combo VDP, you have reasonable attack, massive amounts of health. Like, it's not a bad card to have whatsoever. But it's like not a bad card to use before you transform. And once you do transform, after waiting 30 turns, you become a significantly stronger card because you now have an extra VDP, so you have significantly more damage output there, and your active skill becomes one of the strongest possible because for a 3-turn cooldown, you get to generate a row of fire, give yourself +1 combo, and 3 times attack for fire for a single turn. It's basically going to guarantee that you're going to burst down and kill whatever spawn is in your way, and this happens every 3 turns. Truly powerful sub overall for mono fire teams. It's one of the best mono fire subs you can have, and the vast majority of strong mono fire teams tend to run Grantis just because once he transforms, he's going to kind of carry you through the later floors. On that note, he can be acquired via the appreciation medal, so it makes him a little less rare, and if you have one already, probably not such a great idea to vote for another one. Norza is another transforming card. This is going to be a trend because transforming just tends to be the way of the future, so to speak. They just are a little bit stronger overall. But Norza, once she transforms after 18 turns, she becomes a true powerhouse with large base attack, 777 combo, VDP, cloud resist, and an incredibly overtuned active skill. Her active skill is on a 2-turn cooldown and will generate 3 water and 3 hard orbs, along with 1.5 times orb movement time and 1.5 times recovery. So you're basically guaranteeing you can restore your health back to full when you use her as a leader because she has a 5 times RCV multiplier. The big catch with Norza is that she must use an active skill every single turn in order to trigger her full multipliers. And thankfully, her base skill is a 2-turn cooldown. So that means with one Norza as a leader, you need to have one other card with a 1 to 2-turn cooldown in order to use when the leader Norza is on cooldown. And the best possible option for Norza is, amusingly, herself. No other water card has a stronger 2-turn active skill than Norza, because you're going to be guaranteeing yourself even more RCV every turn, always being able to overwrite time debuffs, and the orbs you need to activate. You can at least trigger your leader skill multipliers, get your damage reduction, and tank whatever hits coming in, because those 3 hard orbs can definitely be matched. Obviously, when you match 5 hard orbs, you get more benefits, but the point of the matter is Norza is her own best sub. So if you have, say, Gung-Ho Yomi or you have Velkhana, which both provide different benefits when paired with Norza, you want to ideally have a Norza as a sub. So if you have one Norza and any of those 2 leaders I mentioned, use them as a leader, Norza as a sub. But if you don't have those other 2 leaders, Norza is your leader and you're pairing with one of them, and then your sub is going to be something less ideal. So getting a second Norza will obviously be meaningful. It's the greatest upgrade to her team you can possibly have because it's solving her active skill requirements. And for the leader pairings, Gung-Ho Yomi gives you auto follow-up attack, so much stronger for things like Altarina 4, and Velkhana has higher offensive potential and higher effective health, which is better for Shura Realm. Basically, you want to just kind of pick the leader that's going to be best for the dungeon you're playing through, but again, have Norza as a sub. The next Godfest exclusive I want to touch upon is Alejay. And Alejay will be receiving a buff in the future. It's not here in North America yet, but all the information you see here from Tsubaki Bot will be showing JP information, which is good and a little bad in a sense because it could be a touch misleading right now. But the thing is, this is what we are going to have in the future, and it's good to be able to plan ahead accordingly because we want to be able to vote in cards that are going to be stronger at some point in time. If we know a card is going to get buffed in the future, it's good to mention them. So Alejay's buff is that she's going to have a massive amount of auto follow-up attack damage. She will be giving 10 million auto follow-up attack damage per leader, and that threshold was incredibly high, and it caused issues in JP because it would get voided out by void spawns because it was too high, which is kind of silly because normally auto follow attack would be low enough to slide under that void threshold. Either way, this, like any auto follow attack, will be buffed to ignore damage and damage absorb and damage void mechanics. So now Alejay can just smash through things and not even ignore it. Like technically Sopdet in like the early arenas, who has very little health, can be auto follow attack down. Don't even need a Fujin style active skill. Kind of ridiculous. But even if we don't have this auto follow attack buff, Alejay still boasts tremendous personal damage, and she is a wonderfully powerful rainbow leader due to her high effective health through massive damage reduction and an HP multiplier, high attack multiplier as well, and she can favorably pair with basically any rainbow leader that can utilize her typing, because Alejay has no typing nor color restriction. She can use anything as a sub. So if you pair her with something that is needing devil type cards, like say like Lucia or Halloween Sonya Gran, or Dark Loki for whatever reason. Point being is you have the options to pair with many other leaders with Alejay, so you have that wonderful amount of flexibility, but generally speaking, you want to find someone with bonus combos because that's one thing she is lacking within her leader skill. For Shellingford, you want him for his various weapon assists, and each weapon assist will give you at least one skill boost, and then 40% resist in one metric, 20% resist in another. And it's a matter of finding which resists are most helpful to yourself, but I want to pay a little closer attention to the light form because it's got a tremendously long base cooldown, which means it's very unlikely to accidentally charge up, which is helpful. And then the fire form has a 4-turn delay, which is definitely valuable for any team that wants to transform, because you can inherit this onto a card of a lower base cooldown, delay the earlier floors, and enjoy the extra 4 turns of stalling. It basically makes it an effective 5 skill boost weapon assist. So pretty helpful there overall, along with making fire and hard orbs so it never really goes to waste either. Fagan Rai, you want to make his weapon assist. Like, his weapon assist is one of the single best weapon assists in the entire game. Very few weapon assists have as much universal value as his, because it provides 2 team health, a single skill boost, 1 cloud resist, and a 20-turn base cooldown, which is long enough to avoid accidentally charging up in most cases. And it doesn't really matter what type of team you are using, all these awakenings will be beneficial. If you don't know what weapon assist to put on and you've got resist for all the important stuff already, this is a good solution. It's going to always provide value. And it's a weapon assist that I've lacked in my monster box until we had the 4 choices gift appreciation dungeon, which I immediately got a Fagan Rai on my account, Fantastic's account, and my mom's Mantastic account, because it's so helpful. And if you don't have one already and you somehow misplaced your appreciation medal, it may be useful to have him, but at the same time, there is a strong likelihood that many people will have this weapon assist, which in turn does lower the chances of it being, like, necessary. The next 7-star Godfest exclusive is Fasca, and after 18 turns, Fasca transforms into this wonderful form here, while also having a 7x6 leader skill when you enter a dungeon. So you are now playing with a larger board, which means you can favorably pair with many other cards, and even though Sure Realm and Altarina 4 does provide 7x6 punishment, the one in Sure Realm is not too bad, and Fasca pairs beautifully with Rygen because the extra large board ensures that Rygen has lots of light orbs for the TPA. The RCV multiplier from Fasca counteracts all the attacker problems of having low RCV. Fasca has a overtuned active skill that does basically everything you want to have to counter various mechanics. Just a wonderfully strong card to have overall, and it's something I would personally like to have. Next is Nell, and I think Nell is still a strong card, and Nell is being buffed in the future to have a shorter base cooldown, but even without the cooldown reduction, she still is able to create a column of dark, a column of hearts, and a 1-turn for bypassing damage absorption. It's incredibly helpful, and she can be used as a leader or as a sub. As a sub, I've used her on my Yux team because this Fujin style active skill charges up faster, and when I play a co-op with myself, it's much more enjoyable because I am able to actually benefit from the lower cooldown, which means when I alternate turns, it still charges up in time for having Sopdet and then following with the green chaser individual later on. Either way, the point of the matter is a very fast base cooldown and a leader skill that is tremendously well tuned. It has large health and RCV multipliers, an attack multiplier, and damage reduction, but you must use balanced type cards, which obviously can be a little problematic, but thankfully Nell with her larger 7x6 board can beautifully pair with Yugi, Chris, or Sakura. You have multiple options. She's a great sub, a great leader, and I think she is powerful to own overall. The next 7-star Godfest exclusive is Zerog Core, and you want him for either his base form but also his weapon assist. In his base form, he provides a 1 cooldown active skill, which is wonderful because anything that needs an active skill every turn is now fulfilled. Any team that wants to be below 50% health is also happy because this active skill cuts your health by 50%, and you also get 3 seconds of bonus orb movement time, so you override time debuffs and give yourself just enough movement time to do whatever you need to do. I used Zerog Core for a prolonged period of time. It was quite helpful for many teams because it just provided lots of value. But if you find yourself not necessarily utilizing him in this base form, his weapon assist is desirable because it is the only one in North America that provides 2 TPAs. And that is a massive damage boost to TPA-oriented cards such as Rygen or Astalos, who want to match TPAs anyways. And this is a great way to layer in even more damage output for those cards. So if you do have a Rygen and you don't have a Zerog Core, this is possibly going to be a very appetizing option for yourself. Next are the Minoas, and Minoas do so many different things, but base Minoa has a 1-turn cooldown that can lock all orbs, many applications there because you can counter spinners with relative ease. Their evolved forms are reasonably strong leaders as well that have damage reduction, auto follow attack, bonus combos. They do a bit of everything while having solid multipliers. And at the same time, Minoa is never going to be a bad card to roll or own because with 6 distinct forms, there's going to be at least one that will be helpful to your individual monster box. And as mentioned before, the Samurai 3 Pantheon cards are included, and the reason for that is because each of them provides a single skill boost and then 80% jammer, poison, or blind resist. It's just a phenomenally efficient way to achieve 100% resist in a particular metric because you can utilize that alongside of other 20% to hit that 100% threshold while giving a skill boost to help you transform. They are never going to be bad cards. They are helpful, but I dislike the fact that they are lumped in with the 7-star Godfest exclusives. If it was the 6 stars, that would be so much nicer because, well, like 6-star Godfest exclusives are still helpful, but they are less powerful by comparison to 7 stars, generally speaking. So for the 6-star Godfest exclusives, I feel like Red Odin deserves some mentioning because Red Odin in this not in his Mega Awoken form, has 6 skill boosts and 6 fire rows. Great for farming, even great for traditional transforming teams because you can ensure that you have enough skill boosts to transform and the copious amount of passive damage is wonderful. 8 latent slots means he can slap on the Jammer Surge latent and 2 SDRs and you're pretty much good to go. Blue Odin is somewhat similar, but instead of having 6 skill boosts, he has 4, but he has super blind resist. And I feel like that super blind resist is pretty helpful because that's the equivalent of 5 awakenings essentially, and his much lower base cooldown can be utilized to inherit an active skill of your choice over top, and it's just a wonderfully strong utility card overall. For Fujin, her Mega Awoken form is tremendously powerful because she has solid personal damage and a leader skill that has synergy with Rygen if you don't want to use a 7x6 board. Just be mindful that you need to run a healing solution like Mel, otherwise you will have only one-time RCV. But that withstanding, Fujin is still a strong sub in her own right because she has solid personal damage and this active skill, which is the Fujin style active skill, which people often say because it was the original damage absorption counter that we had available. And now it's on a 14-turn cooldown, lasts for 2 turns, and while the attack debuff may seem frustrating, if your team doesn't have many fire cards, it doesn't really matter, and it just actually lowers the cooldown and makes it more accessible. A10, I would give a 10 out of 10. Because they are one of the strongest damage solutions in the game. They have 8 distinct killer awakenings, a 10 combo, and a 7 combo. So that means he has 10 times personal damage before the killers, and then if they have a single typing, 30 times. Double typing, which is the most common, will be 90 times personal damage. Stupendous amount of damage output, a great candidate for the VDP latent for your rainbow teams, and they can even pair with Dire to create a 7x6 board and solve like RCV issues for the team. It's a strong and easy to use team despite being 7x6 and having penalties, so I don't really bring it in things like Shuro Realm or Alterina 4, but I use it for quite a bit of other content. And the only drawback of A10 at this point in time is that Gung Ho is starting to shift towards mono type spawns, and that basically means that opposing spawn has 1 typing or a typing that A10 doesn't cover because like enhanced material or something silly like that. But the point of the matter is it drastically lowers A10's potential if it's a mono-type spawn because now it's only 30 times attack, which is still strong, but his base attack is quite low. By comparison, Rygen in her new Mega Awoken form has up to 60.75 times personal damage against any spawn when using a Zera Core Weapon Assist because she will have 5 TPAs, 777 combo, and she has a monstrously large attack set. It's just shy of 4,100. Significantly higher compared to A10. Like, it's a big difference. And Rygen doesn't even care if you are monotype spawn because she does this amount of personal damage to everything. It does not matter. And that high attack set helps ensure it dies. And with that in mind, she is another strong candidate for the VDP latent because her leader skill needs to match Rainbow for the most part, and she can pair beautifully with Fasca to solve her healing requirements. Dark Cali is the last 6-star Godfest exclusive I want to highlight, and Dark Cali has been buffed to have 5 to 6 skill boosts based on the Super Awakening you choose, while also having balance typing worked in. So now with this balance typing, she can take any killer latent, but she now can be utilized on Valentine's Ideal or New Year's Reach teams, and these 5 to 6 skill boosts are tremendously helpful because it can help anything transform that actually needs to transform, or have certain active skills charged up and ready by specific key times. Overall, Dark Cali is a wonderfully strong card, and I'm so happy I finally rolled one somewhat recently. And now we come to the Pantheon cards. And for the Pantheon cards, there will be 40 cards that will make it into this Player's Choice Godfest. And in my opinion, that's far too high. If it was just 20 Pantheon cards and the same rolling rates respectively, like the whole Pantheon chunk still has the same rolling rates overall, but each one is twice as more likely to appear, that would be much better, because I don't think there are 40 great Pantheon cards out there. If we had 20 cards to pick from, it'd be a much stronger lineup overall, because I feel like after that point, many of those cards will be just much more lackluster by comparison. So I'm not going to be able to list 40 cards, but the cards I will be listing is not an exhaustive list, but might give you some idea of what you could be possibly missing or possibly vote for. And finally, I want to mention that the legendary heroes such as Pixel Napoleon are not available to be voted for, which seems a little sad because if I didn't have a Pixel Napoleon, I would love to get Pixel Napoleon. Either way, Inoime is the first card I want to draw attention to, because Inoime has strong machine killing potential, and at one point in time they were basically mandatory to run on your Gillian teams, because Gillian teams cannot kill floor 1's blue gear spawn without a hard-hitting machine killer option, because Gillians cannot transform before the blue gear actually hits them. So Inoime was a wonderful solution. They also have super jammer resist, which again makes your life a little easier because you don't have to worry about jammer orbs, which is kind of not necessary on Gillian teams. But either way, Inoime can get machine killer latents and has 2 machine killers naturally. The main issue is things like Pixel Napoleon are just stronger. Like Pixel Napoleon has 4 machine killers and 7 combos. He does way more damage. He basically, I think Pixel Napoleon oftentimes damage caps on his sub attribute. It's kind of outrageous. But point of the matter is, Inoime is still strong. It's just that Pixel Napoleon is a better option, I feel, overall. But if you don't have Inoime, you don't have Pixel Napoleon, obviously it's going to be a meaningful card to own. Next card is Horus. And Horus is a wonderfully strong utility-based card. He does quite a bit of things. He has Guard Break, he has L Unlock, he has Double 7 combo, he can get Cloud or Tape Resist via Super Awakenings. He has a 2-turn base cooldown, which can easily inherit something over top of. And they're just a reasonably solid sub to put on a wide variety of teams if you don't know what to bring. If you don't know what to bring, Horus is not necessarily going to be a bad thing to include on a given team because of all the varying utility they do provide. Next card is Shiva, and Shiva is going to become much more relevant when the new Shura Realm comes out, because Shiva has strong personal damage due to their high attack, Double 7 combo, Dragon Killer. They can gain a VDP Super Awakening. They also have 8 latent slots to use many killers, but it's their active skill that is quite appetizing. And the reason for that is because a 75% damage reduction is the equivalent to 4 times effective health for that given turn. And using that right before you get hit by something truly punishing and dangerous will save your life. It can also be used to give yourself an extra effective skill boost on floor 1 if you are going to be hit by something that you couldn't survive before transforming. Throw up that shield, you're probably going to live. And the same can be said about any large executes or health thresholds or unavoidable hits. Using Shiva will save you. And in addition to that, it does provide a defense break, which can have some merits as well, along with a fire orb enhance, which helps you do a little bit more damage. But the point of the matter is, it's a strong shield on a 7-turn cooldown on a body that does lots of things, and he also has super poison resist, which is also wonderful. Next is Diao Chan, and as far as I can remember, Diao Chan has always been a good sub. She's ever since she was first released, she was used on Anubis teams and still was useful, and in her current form still has merits today because of her super blind resist, 4 skill boosts, and a 2-turn base cooldown that is actually a useful effect because it removes 2 turns of Awoken skill bind and gives you a small orb movement time bonus. But point of the matter is, you can inherit an active skill of your choice on top of her. She provides 4 skill boosts. You can get that inherited skill and use it right away for whatever utility you may need. The blind resist frees up team building slots. L unlocks the board. And oftentimes, if I don't know what sub to bring, I put on a Diao Chan. Because when I put on Diao Chan, she brings so much utility to the table. In fact, those 2 light damage reductions are actually helpful in Shura Realm because Raphael has 150% gravity and he is light based, so you can just take off some of that damage, so your smaller damage reductions might be enough to help you survive. Next is Amaterasu, and Amaterasu is just one of the strongest healing solutions in the game. She has a huge RCV stat. She has 3 enhanced hard orbs. She has 2 skill boosts. She has the Recover Bind, which has now been buffed, but she also has haste and a big heal through her active skill. That haste can be used to help cycle up other cards or help them transform, or cycling, say, on your Gillian team with Grantis. You can get those 3-turn cooldowns now to 2 turns with the haste, and helps ensure you always have an active skill ready for subsequent floors. Overall, a truly powerful card to own. Next is Indra, and Indra has a super poison resist and a 13-turn cooldown that provides an RCV buff, which is always helpful, but 75% damage reduction for 2 turns and 1 turn haste. So they have 4 skill boosts. They essentially have 5 effective skill boosts due to the haste from their active skill, and it really is 7 when you really think about it, because the 75% damage reduction is probably going to let you survive anything. And a similar logic can be applied to Indra's shield as Shiva's for the upcoming Shura 2. Those large unavoidable hits will be saved by Indra's massive damage reduction. So a strong card to utilize moving forward. They have triple typing, so they can be used across a wide variety of teams. Tachibana also has a 75% damage reduction shield. You're seeing a pattern of why these cards are helpful, or why I'm mentioning them, but she also provides super poison resist and 20% blind, 20% jammer resist. So helpful resist overall, combos with Samurai 3 weapons beautifully, because you can inherit, say, a Samurai 3 weapon with 80% blind resist. You now have 100% with Tachibana, and in addition to that, she has respectable personal damage due to higher base attack and double 7 combo, and her board changer at least will give you fire, water, wood, light, and hard orb, so it will activate for the vast majority of rainbow teams. And she definitely can be utilized on teams such as Rygen and Fasca due to her attacker typing. Next is Nohimi. Nohimi is basically a color copy of Tachibana, except they have super jammer resist instead of super poison resist. Same logic applies to Nohimi, but she has devil physical god typing instead of attacker, god, and physical. So you're changing attacker to devil typing. And then lastly is Ali2. And Ali2 is a tremendously strong sub because she brings super poison resist, 4 skill boosts, double 7 combo, L unlock, and her active skill provides a 3-turn delay with a tricolor board changer as well. So she has now 7 effective skill boosts. Her tricolor board changer creates fire, water, and dark, which helps you kill stuff. So even if you cannot delay later spawns in the dungeon, you have a board changer alongside of it, so it doesn't necessarily go to waste. And Ali2 with her water sub-attribute can actually be utilized on mono water teams because she will be providing that massive skill boost and helpful active skill along with beneficial awakenings. There's no real downside to Ali2 outside of her possibly being acquired from the recent Pantheon survey, which we had, where Ali2 was number 1 and arguably 20% of the player base rolled her because it's a 1 in 5 chance to acquire. Either way, solid, powerful sub overall. So, in conclusion, Player's Choice Godfest is an exciting time because you are able to vote for what you feel is the most important card for your monster box to acquire. And at the same time, I find it interesting to see the results at the end of any Player's Choice Godfest because it will just reflect and show what we feel is relevant at this point in time, which, at least to me, I think is interesting. But with that being said, the recommendations and suggestions that I've made in this video may not necessarily be 100% applicable to your own monster box and individual needs. You should be putting yourself and your needs first when thinking of what to vote for, because if a card is going to be helpful for yourself, it's going to obviously be meaningful to acquire. So you should follow your heart, so to speak. But with that being said, let me know what you plan on voting for in the comments below, along with your rationale or reasoning for that. Either way, hopefully you all have a fantastic day. I wish you all the best luck in your own pad adventures, and happy puzzling.